Hello, I'm Andy Jones, and with me here is Dean Ellerby. Welcome to our new show, Get Modern. Dean and I are technical architects in the modern desktop and enterprise mobility area, and just I'll hand over to Dean at this point, who'll give you a bit of an intro.
Hello. So I'm Dean Ellerby. Why are we doing this then? So, mainly this is about giving back to the community for both me and Andy, I think. And really, we're essentially going to be talking about what we've learned, what we've picked up over the weeks, where we just soak up information from the community, all the customers we work with for various different things that we get involved in, learning new skills, and generally just discussing the topics that interest us, really. So hopefully we'll be demonstrating some of the concepts that we've made use of over the week, and just a general chat about how modern desktop and security stuff is impacting customers and us at the moment. We'll also be digging into things like new features in Intune, SCCM, Windows 10, stuff from the insider previews, that kind of thing, and the public previews from Azure. And yeah, I mean, so Andy, this is probably the first time people have had the opportunity to see you online. Do you want
Lucky
to give
them.
yourself a bit of an intro?
Yeah, thanks, Dean. Hi, everyone. My background is quite varied. I've worked with BT for over 25 years um, in a technical capacity. Started off mainly as kind of coding and working on development projects for intranet websites, where I developed a number of intranet websites, and that was kind of where my base originally came from. Programming in various languages, progressed into HTML and XML when it first came out, so that was quite exciting at the time. Then kind of leapt into a kind of review and testing role where I was kind of evaluating products that we were deploying on our intranet. Um, Kind of coming more up to speed, I've worked more on kind of infrastructure projects. So I've always been working in and around kind of Windows servers and Windows 10 or incarnations of that previously, um, and the configuration of that. But I've never really been kind of configuring the nuts and bolts of it until I joined the team that I'm in now. So currently work in a Microsoft Cloud practice unit, and specifically around the desktop area, where I work with Dean specifically. And this is where kind of my knowledge has evolved fairly quickly, because obviously had to come up to speed with kind of skill sets and learning it. And this is clearly, an area which is changing dramatically at the moment. And I think for me, that kind of invigorates me to learn more as well. So I work in an architect role, but I also in a pre-sales capacity as well. I do a lot of designing, but also writing proposals and documents. And in that way, I have to know what I'm talking about. So I learned a hell of a lot along the way, and that hopefully that kind of brings me up to speed where I am right now.
Hmm. Well, I think that working in the pre-sales is must be really hard because you've got customers who have just as much information as you, and they've got access to all the information from Microsoft, almost all the information from Microsoft that you and we do. And they sometimes might know more than you about the thing they're asking you to help with. And I've personally found that when we get to the delivery side, we're working with engineers who are really clued up on the thing they're trying to do, and we're, in there helping them. In some cases, they know a really specific thing about the thing we're trying to deliver with them. Have you come up against that in the past?
Yeah, I think you did get a mixed bag, but you certainly need to kind of drop into that environment and pretty much know your stuff. I think originally when I first started doing that, I never classed myself as a salesperson at all, and I still
Mm.
don't really. I err on more on kind of giving information, technical knowledge where it's needed, but um, you certainly do get those customers that are there to test you. It's
Mm.
almost as if they're specifically there to test you. But Um, I think at the end of the day, what you generally find is they come to you because they're looking for that extra bit of knowledge. So that's where it becomes quite important to really kind of drill down to what the requirement is and get that information out the account teams before you get into that discussion,
Mm,
because you can quite easily go down a rabbit hole and start talking about things that they're not even interested in. So
mm.
yeah, I totally get where you're coming from on that, and sometimes you might not be pitching at the right level, but ordinarily most customers, if they've come to you, are wanting details or knowledge from you because they haven't experienced it, they haven't played with it, and they certainly don't have the resources to do that. So
Yeah.
that would be the norm, I say.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. So it's not a case of just learning about it and learning what it's meant to do. You can get a lot of that information from Microsoft directly and from various outlets where you just essentially get a feel for what it should do when it's working and how it
Yeah,
should be set up when it's working. And you don't get that feel for what happens when it doesn't quite work or how is it meant to be set up best practice and that kind of thing. So that I think that's the knowledge and experience that we generally bring to the table when it comes
yeah,
to this kind of thing.
yeah,
So obviously, it's really important that you do keep up to date with all the changes because it's a constantly changing world in what we do.
mm,
You know that I mentioned previews and stuff coming out, but it's every week. You can have a look on the what's new pages in Intune and SCCM and Windows 10 and see stuff that's really interesting. So how do you keep up with that? How do you learn and how do you manage your own knowledge to make sure you're up to date with what you need to talk about next?
I guess there's various routes. So I would say, I'd hate to put a figure on it, but every day you're doing that, and sometimes you don't even know you're doing it, because you're verifying someone's questions, or you're verifying information or technical information someone's given you and you don't quite understand it or whatever. So you're either on the Microsoft websites looking at the latest documentation, or following formal training programs, which luckily we've got the benefit of with Pluralsight, which has been a great resource. I know it's been helpful to you, Dean. um,
Yeah,
and I've certainly used it, not to in earnest, but and I'm getting into it more and more. But I would say, pretty much every day, would an element of my role is kind of double checking things through Microsoft documentation or through colleagues. Yeah, because actually Microsoft documentation or website isn't always up to date. um, I know it will say that the date changes on the website, but I've kind of found some documents to be out of date, and maybe you've just gone to the wrong website or something, and they've not taken that page away. But certainly, you need to double check it sometimes.
yeah, yeah, and one of the benefits we've got is access to lab environments where we can just try it out. And I've always personally found it's best to take what you think should work and review it on YouTube, review what other people have done, get any information you
Yeah,
can by watching others, but then you really have to experience it. Uh, and that's what we do with the lab environments that we've got.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
For this channel, and I think we hopefully do these on a regular basis. And the idea is to start with Defender for Endpoint, I think, and then
yeah,
link that into the rest of the Defender suite. So, Defender for Identity and Defender for Office 365 all link in together with a product called Cloud App Security, and that's really where the first couple of videos are gonna end up. I think Cloud App Security and a
yeah,
demonstration of that, and a chat through how it's actually useful and whether it's useful. And then eventually, Sentinel. That's the same solution from Microsoft which takes all these data entry points and just um, makes it available in a brilliant format, and that's essentially what we're going to look at some point in this series. Um, Obviously, on the way, we'll go through all the other stuff we have to go through to get to that end goal. Configuring Windows 10 for Defender for Endpoint, configuring all the different bits in all the Defender suite. So that's good. Um, yeah. So I mean, other than that, it's not just going to be a look at how a feature should work. As I say, it's more making sure that we cover what stuff is like in real life, in real organizations with real technical challenges, and cover the stuff that we've seen in the field. So
Mm.
Andy, what are you sort of working on at the moment in the new interesting stuff that you've got on your radar? I'm thinking things like, Defender for endpoint in mobile devices. Have you got anything?
No, no, it's not anything specifically in that. I mean, I know we've had certain, we do have one customer that we are, putting a package of work together for. This is quite, a fairly new area for us, I suppose, and obviously the rebranding of things is quite recent as well from Microsoft. Albeit, a lot of the technology is the same, but they're rebranding it again. But
Mm,
yeah, it's an area which is, become more and more priority, more and more something that people are demanding, and Microsoft are evolving there. They put a hell of a lot of budget, don't they, into developing this, and certainly, it's now seen as kind of market leaders. And Defender itself is, when you look at Defender, which goes on onto Windows 10, is, is the minimal basic, really, from what people might identify that as being just, anti-malware and that goes on your desktop. But what we're talking about here is, a much bigger product set and functionality, which goes a lot deeper into kind of monitoring, and reporting, and being, proactive in what kind of in your security levels. And I think that it's an area that will lots more, lot more companies will be demanding going forward. So yeah, I mean, we're linked up to, BT Security, and I'm not here to promote anything from BT really, but we've got the luxury of having some of these services which, we can then kind of link into and integrate and get some experience with. And BT have a Sentinel service, but um, I guess one area which I have been kind of leading on and doing a lot of work on is mobile threat defense. And we, don't mind saying, we kind of been working with Imperium on that, and they're kind of market leaders. So when it comes to mobile devices, that is a product, if you like, that we're working closely with in deploying at the moment. We've got a mobile arm, obviously, within BT,
mm,
but I'm quite interested in that area because I think, while historically we've been, focused a lot on Windows 10, the whole Intune and cloud management kind of opens the wider field into all mobile devices. And so getting more experience within mobile devices outside of Windows 10 for me is quite an interesting topic. So yeah, we're
mm.
close. We're close to kind of producing something in that area.
Yeah, I mean that's the weird thing, isn't it? So we always have considered the three main things to be iOS, Android, and Windows 10 within Intune for since for a few years now. That's been the main, and maybe Mac, but the main three, and that's MDM, that's mobile device management. We've not really considered threat defense to be as important as device management. So
Yeah,
MTD, mobile threat defense, now that it's part of Defender for Endpoint, that's I think going to become much more obvious to customers that that is something they should be thinking about.
yeah,
But as you say, as Imperium has had a product out there in the market which is really well designed and well thought through. It's based in the cloud, and but all of the threat processing is handled on the endpoint rather than the cloud, so it's better apparently. So that's good. But as you say, we're working with them to understand what that is and how it works and how we can help customers with that particular product.
yeah. I mean, I think, I, like I say, I've got an interest in this, and actually, it was you kind of started off this discussion for this, but maybe further down the line we could get someone from Zimperium on. I
Mm,
think that would be quite an interesting topic, really, if it was just us firing questions and maybe giving a quick demonstration, because I think a lot of people will open their eyes to the kind of access that some software have to
mhm,
mobile devices, and alarmingly so. I mean, iOS devices traditionally have been quite locked down, and they've not really been touched by viruses. I think they've got off lightly in some respects, or maybe that's because it's a good it's a it's a good operating system. I don't know,
mm.
but I think I think it's quite an interesting area to kind of
Yeah.
investigate. So there's something that we could do more of, I think.
Yeah, indeed. No, I think that's a good idea. Sort of, if they'd be interested in coming on something like this, then that would be really good to get them on, because the demonstrations in there and the things they can tell you about the risks, the real risks that are out there. And you're right, it is alarming. It did shock me when I first had
Yeah,
that explained to me in really basic terms. These are the risks. These are why they're important. These are why you need to fix them. And ever since a couple of years ago, I've been explaining that to customers. We've been fixing it with customers. So yeah, it is a good thing to keep on pushing.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, you didn't you have an example recently where the security was broken down in a company?
yeah, well, we reacted to an incident in one of our customers, but it was they were using legacy devices, using Windows 7 in a very small area, unfortunately, and someone clicked a link and got, yeah, the malware got in, and that really opened my eyes to how devastating a malware attack can be, and how it can take a company down from being perfectly productive to being not very productive at all if it took a few things down that it really shouldn't have. So yeah, that was unfortunate. But they were back up and running. It was all fine. Um, but that, as I say, that did open my eyes. It got me into starting to blog about security a bit more of an understanding. I've done some um, labs and stuff into how these kind of threats work, to actually run them through and understand them in more detail. And I mean, let's if we just sort of roll it back a little bit. I mean, it's the community is what really has obviously started this. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
YouTube channel going out into the internet, so there's some community involvement there. This definitely isn't about work or for anything I do work wise, but obviously I do work 9 to 5 or a lot of the day, so it's
Do
going to
you?
have some kind of impact. And thanks. Yeah, apparently I do. So it will have an impact on what we talk about. But recently, I don't know if you saw, I was involved in Solder Stream with Johnny Chips on his Twitch channel. Three
Yeah.
and a half hours of soldering a Pico Pi, a Raspberry Pi Pico,
Mm.
which is this. Well, it's this actually, that thing there. Um, Soldering these buttons onto it for 3.5
I have
hours.
to say, I'm impressed that you can actually do soldering.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, yeah. I hadn't
It's not something you
really.
just do. You have to practice it a little bit.
Well, yeah, I practiced for 3.5 hours. It was really good fun. And we had an audience. We had a few people chatting to us throughout. I'm not sure if it was the same people all the way through. I think there was a few people who did actually stay all the way through, and it was really good. I really enjoyed that. I mean, it's not quite finished, and my desk is a mess because it's still got all the wires. I haven't actually sat down at this desk since we streamed that the other
Mm.
day. So that's, yeah, I need to give this a tidy. Just about got room for
You
my
you
keyboard.
feel like you feel like you've achieved something, and learned something along the way. And like you say, that's effectively what this is about. And just to reiterate what you say, this isn't about work. Yes, it kind of seeps into what we discuss, because majority of the stuff that we learn is through through doing things, and a lot of things we do are at work. So naturally that's going to come into it. But I like you, I think I actually think that there's there's a kind of a gap where, we've got colleagues who work in the Azure area, and there seems to be quite a from what I've seen, quite a close-knit community where people really help each other out. And not that there isn't in this kind of modern desktop or modern workplace area, but I actually think there's an ask out there for people to work closely and get more involved with each other than just a website,
Mm-hmm.
and become get to know each other a bit more. There's obviously some clear you know, there's some people that are really well known throughout the industry. Michael Niehaus, for example, is one of them in this area. Um, and there's a couple of guys from Microsoft that have kind of jumped ship recently and moved on. And it'd be interesting to see how they evolve or who takes over. But other than the Microsoft streams, that's out there, I think there is a gap for people to kind of come together more in this area because it's such a fast moving industry. And at the end of the day, pretty much, most people go to work and put a Windows 10 machine in front of them for many hours of the day. So actually it's quite a topical, technical area.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, just on that point, all of the stuff that most of the stuff that you consume in Azure, you'll be using a Windows device to access that. So
Yeah,
it all links together. You'll probably be using your Android device or your iOS device to use Twitter and stuff while you're working. So it all does come together. It's this modern workplace idea, isn't it, where everyone's using the same types of devices securely to get work done.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean that's essentially what it's about, isn't it? It's even if there isn't an ask for this kind of thing for two relatively boring people to chat through modern desktop and security stuff on YouTube for 40 minutes, we're going to do it anyway and see what happens.
yeah, absolutely. And see if we can gain some followers and just get people maybe interested. And you know what, by no means, certainly not me, I'm no expert in these areas, so I kind of totally encourage people to ask questions or correct us. I think the whole idea about this is not being perfect, it's about trying to investigate and see where we can go with it, and get additional people involved as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we'll also touch on Autopilot, and provisioning devices in an efficient, secure way. And Autopilot was or building devices without needing SCCM, as it used to be known before the marketing people got hold of it,
Mm.
was sort of the holy grail of device provisioning, wasn't it? So
Yeah,
it was always the ambition of Microsoft, an ambition of Microsoft, I should say, to get rid of SCCM. I think it seemed that they were trying to push organizations and admins away from using SCCM in a few years ago, and then they turned a bit and got Autopilot in on the cards, and actually embraced SCCM as something that's going to should stay. Really, it's got its place, and allowing organizations to do things like co-management,
yeah.
because most organizations just can't move away from SCCM or config manager as it is now. So yeah, we'll be touching on Autopilot as a way to get those devices onto desks, and then once they're on desks, we can push Defender for Endpoint and get them secured, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, on that topic, I think despite the fact that the whole autopilot, the whole device cycle has drastically been turned upside down and simplified and opened up to the kind of always on anywhere type of model. I think there's a big discussion to be had around how you approach that, how you make the decisions about which route you're going to take. Are you going to go cloud only? Are you going to go hybrid? And why are you going to go hybrid? And if there's reasons to decisions to be made on do I, don't I? You know, understanding what those questions are initially. So it's kind of the strategy talk about what you're going to do and why you're going to do it, irrespective of the technology, in a way. Because if you get the decisions wrong early on, you're still going to pay a lot of money for something you don't really want. And I think that's quite interesting to kind of investigate that a bit further. So that's more of the architectural side, the design side, but maybe we can, we've got experience from doing some of that with some large customers. So maybe we can, talk about that a bit in forthcoming sessions.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, oh, my window just flung itself open there. Um, as well as Autopilot, what was I going to say? WVD, that's on the list. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge thing for us. Got a lot of customers asking about it. We're talking to about it to a lot of customers because um, it will dramatically change how we do, virtualized devices. Enterprise multi-session, for instance, in Windows 10 is a huge advancement, rather than having to use server to get that functionality. I'm really keen to get stuck into some demos of that,
Yeah.
and chat through that with you and other people, because there's community out there, and there's a lot of people I watch on Twitter and YouTube that are well well involved in
Well versed. Yeah.
WVD, that I really want to talk to, and maybe get one of them on here and have a chat through it with them.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, we've got colleagues who are kind of involved more from the Azure side, and there's a big overlap, isn't there, here from
Mm.
kind of Windows 10 configuration to the whole Azure configuration side, the networking and that side of things. So I think, yeah, it's an interesting topic. Sure,
Yeah,
sure. I
it
mean,
is.
it's not something I've got a vast lot of experience on, but I think also alongside that, there's the potential maybe to start talking about MMD or Microsoft Managed Desktop. It's got in a way it's another option, right? And I think while it's quite fresh off the press in a way, it's now embedded into Microsoft Endpoint Manager.
Mm.
So you now got that option where you can basically select a service to have your desktops managed. And what does that mean? A lot of people won't know about that. So it's a slight, link into that as an option, but we could probably, put that on the table and have a quick chat about that at some point.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. All right. So I mean that's all I had to talk about really. I do want to do a shout out really to the community in general. I really haven't got that many modern desktop community people or modern workplace community people that I interact with or follow at the moment. I really want to build that up. So if you have any names for people who I should follow, please let me know. But really, I wanted to just pick up on one of the things. Just move my desktop to there, I think. And this is Aaron Dinich, and essentially he's got this website called m365maps.com. It's a new website he's put up. Used to just deliver it in PDF format at first, which was good enough for me, because essentially what I was doing was looking at the PDFs, understanding what they were all what they were trying to tell me, and then using the information with customers to get the right solution. So these are essentially licensing diagrams. And if I just click on Venn, for instance, and zoom in a tad, you can see. I mean, this really does break down what features you get within all the different SKUs. So it's a Venn diagram you can see. So this is Office 365 E3, this is Office 365 E5, and then on the verticals you've got M365 E3. And this is such a fantastic way to lay it out in front of a customer, sharing with this website with them. And even these are all URLs. You can see at the bottom there, these are hyperlinks to the actual feature that we're talking about. So if you need more information, you can just click it. So this is a fantastic resource for me, and it's everyone surely, because this is brilliant. So I mean, um, Erin says that he doesn't always keep it up to date. It's not a thing that he's doing forever, but for now he's been keeping it up to date fairly regularly. There's a PayPal link you can donate to help him cover the cost of this website, for instance, and his time, I guess. But yeah, certainly give Erin a follow. There he is. And yeah, and there's his GitHub to pull all this information down if you want the actual PNGs and PDFs. Yeah, but you must use that. Have you seen that before?
I have since you kind of showed me that I've been on there. Yeah, I've got. I mean, there's quite a lot of content to link to, so take a while to get through. But yeah, it's brilliant the way he's done
Mm,
that. It's really
yeah,
good.
it is, and
Yeah.
that's off his own back. He's not a, it's not a thing that Microsoft sell or provide. It is all from him, so it's really good to see, and that's
Well,
that's one bit of the community, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, often people do these things because it's useful and helpful to them,
Yeah,
and then realize actually, do you know what? Other people might make use of this. And in I guess that's in the same way that, kind of these videos and channels and that do crop up. Um, and that's certainly it's worthwhile collecting that information and publicizing it to others
yeah.
because, you know, you can't absorb everything, but if you can narrow down on things that are really, helpful, then it's going to make your life a bit easier.
Mm. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just on the you mentioned blogs and stuff. I mean, I like reading a blog, and when I'm researching a technical topic, it's brilliant to be able to search for a word or search for an error message or search for a thing, a command you're trying to run, and read through that in a blog format and capture it. But I personally prefer to consume this kind of content in a video. So
Yeah.
rather than this discussion being in just written down, I probably wouldn't read it all. Um, so yeah, I think the web format is the video format for me is much better, and I pretty much watch all the videos that I come across really that are related to
Yeah.
this kind of thing. John Lunn has put out an awful lot of videos recently on his Johnny Chips channel, and that's constantly watching that. At one point, I had three videos of John on my screen when I
Well,
was
you
at
can't
work.
keep up with them, Dean. There's just so
Yeah,
many. I mean, does the guy sleep?
well, he must do, but I can't really complain because I kept him up for 3.5 hours the other night soldering a keyboard. So
Yeah,
yeah,
fair
it's
play.
I'm not gonna complain about that. Um, so yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had to talk about. Have you got anything else you want to cover?
Uh, Only to say that, we have got, Twitter links. You'll be able to pick all that information up on the channel here. I've got a blog myself that I've just started. Very little content on there at the moment, but I've started myself a challenge. Dean, you started the 100 Days of Cloud, which is
Did
obviously a community, and your blog itself has got a lot of great content on there. Um,
thanks.
I've given myself a challenge, and it's while I looked at I considered joining the 100 Days of Cloud, and then I thought, do you know what? I'm going to create my own one, my own challenge to me, and that's 100 days of move to modern. All right, because
Right.
my basically my blog is basically called Move to Modern. Um, and all everything, the strategy, the content, the details, how you might approach that. So it's very similar. It's very similar to the 100 Days of Cloud, but I'm just terming it slightly different as a personal challenge. So
Mm,
that's what I'm going to do. That's what my blog is going to cover, but also other little bits as well. So you've done the Pico Pi thing. I've recently built what I call some nano blocks, some RGB LED strips into a box, and with a light show. So I put that up there. So just a few fun things that have got me through lockdown and helped me mentally along route. So
yeah.
yeah,
No, that's good. I mean,
so
yeah. So the the,
have
the,
a
the
look at the
link.
links. Yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say they'll put the links at the bottom of this video
yeah,
to grab all those. Yeah, the Twitter channel for example hasn't really been properly started up yet, so we'll probably link to it in this when we publish this video on Twitter at some point in the next few days.
yeah,
But that's
yeah,
it. So thanks for watching, if you have, and yeah, give us a subscribe. Thank you very much.
yeah. Thanks very
Cheers.
much.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye.